Welcome to the thrilling third episode of our exciting new series. Days passed, and both Jungkook and Taehyung slipped back into their respective lives in their own countries. The spicy allure of Korean cuisine and the relentless rhythm of a workaholic lifestyle enveloped Jungkook. While Taehyung reveled in the vibrant Australian culture, enjoying rich dishes like barramundi and lamb, along with the laid-back coastal lifestyle that came with it. The contrast between their daily existences was stark, and the question lingered in the air, would they ever truly be a match? The weekend had finally arrived, a week since Jungkook's departure from Australia. He sat amidst the opulent splendor of his modern mansion, the sleek lines of his plush couch cradling him as he gazed intensely at his phone. A single name danced in his mind, taunting him with its presence, Taehyung Nathaniel. His fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating as he whispered to himself. "Do you miss me, as much as I miss you?" The past week had been a relentless torment, the man's memory haunting Jungkook's every waking moment. Yet, he had resisted the urge to dial the number, fearing that his desire might be misinterpreted as desperation. But now, as the silence between them threatened to become unbearable, Jungkook's resolve crumbled. With a deep breath, he surrendered to his longing, his thumb grazing the screen as he initiated the call. The phone rang once, twice, thrice, before plunging into an agonizing silence. Damn it. Jungkook's curse was barely audible, a whispered lament as he felt the ACH of rejection spreading from his gut to his chest. Undeterred, he dialed again, his fingers flying across the screen with a desperate urgency, as if his very life depended on the outcome. He paced across the room, his hands raking through his tousled hair as his gaze drifted out the window, where the city skyline shimmered like a mirage against the fading light of day. The call went unanswered once more, leaving Jungkook's heart suspended in a state of anguished limbo. His fingers clenched around the phone, as if willing Taehyung to answer. And then, like a whispered promise, the phone rang, shattering the oppressive silence. Jungkook's heart leapt into a frenetic rhythm as he checked the caller ID, his soul trembling with anticipation. Taehyung Nathaniel's name flashed on the screen, accompanied by a video call request. Jungkook's lip curled into a subtle, anticipatory bite as he slid his finger across the screen to answer. As Taehyung's face materialized on the screen, Jungkook's heart skipped a beat. He settled back into his chair, the phone propped up in front of him. "Hey, my Korean obsession," Taehyung purred, his velvety voice dripping with flirtation. "I see you're looking particularly handsome tonight. What's behind that brooding gaze, As Taehyung's flirtatious words washed over him, Jungkook's eyes fluttered closed for a fleeting moment, his face tilting ever so slightly to the side. The back of his hand drifted up to graze his cheek, a gentle, absent-minded touch that betrayed the turmoil brewing beneath his calm exteriors. Jungkook's gaze devoured the screen, drinking in the sight of Taehyung lounging in a vibrant, thrumming atmosphere. The sounds of laughter and music swirled around him, a tantalizing backdrop to Taehyung's radiant smile. "Where are you?" Jungkook's voice was low, his curiosity a palpable thing. Taehyung's smirk was a siren's call, beckoning Jungkook deeper. "Ask how I am instead," he teased, his eyes glinting with mischief. "My past week has been eventful." Jungkook's chuckle was rough, his head shaking in amusement. "You're outside, aren't you?" he asked, his eyes locked on Taehyung's, the connection between them crackling with tension. "The casino, of course," Taehyung said. "Where the reckless and the wicked come to play." Jungkook raised an eyebrow. "And which one are you tonight?" Taehyung: "Maybe a little bit of both." Jungkook: "I'm stuck at home, living my best life on a Sunday." Taehyung's teasing was relentless. "Oh, poor baby, stuck at home on a Sunday. Don't you ever crave a little excitement?" Jungkook's defense was half-hearted. "Work's been piling up. I barely have time to breathe." But the truth was, the monotony was suffocating him, and Taehyung's words only highlighted the dullness of his routine. Taehyung's voice was laced with genuine concern. "How's everything with your dad?" "All settled." Jungkook's pride was palpable. "For now, yes. He loved my new design." Taehyung's eyes sparkled with surprise. "Your new car design." You're a man of many talents. Jungkook's teasing was playful. You thought I was just a pretty face, inheriting daddy's company. Taehyung's smirk was pure flirtation. Oh, you're definitely pretty, but I had no idea you were a genius too. Jungkook's laugh was low, thrilling. There's a lot you don't know about me, yet. Taehyung's eyes sparkled. So, when's the big reveal? Jungkook's smile was tantalizing. Year-end, maybe sooner. Taehyung, that's amazing. Can I get a sneak peek? Jungkook's grin turned playful, teasing. Classified, Taehyung Nathaniel. Top secret. Taehyung's pout was exaggerated, flirtatious. Ah, come on, I'm hurt. I thought we shared secrets. Jungkook's laughter was a throaty purr, his eyes locked onto Taehyung, who leaned in. May I reserve a car, or perhaps the owner would indulge me, Taehyung Nathaniel, with a custom creation, something exclusively mine, and our little secret. Taehyung asked, his voice smooth as silk, with a hint of sultry charm. Jungkook's eyes sparkled. You want to customize one, huh? His fingers began to fidget, drumming a staccato beat on the table. Taehyung, yeah, and I want it to match your eyes, the exact shade. His gaze drifted to Jungkook's chest, rising and falling with each breath. Jungkook's intrigue deepened, his fingers tapping faster. And what else? He caught Taehyung's gaze, his own chest rising sharply as their eyes met. Taehyung's voice dropped to a whisper, his eyes locked onto Jungkook's. A spacious backseat, for when we need a little more room. Jungkook's chest was rising and falling more rapidly now, and Taehyung's gaze lingered on the movement. Jungkook's cheeks flushed, his fingers stilled. Taehyung, he warned, his voice barely above a whisper. Taehyung's chest was rising and falling in tandem with Jungkook's, their breathing synchronized. Taehyung's gaze never wavered, his lips parting slightly. Just thinking ahead, Rue, he purred. For a moment, he'd thought he'd heard Taehyung call him Rue, a nickname that sent his heart fluttering, but he pushed the thought aside, pretending he hadn't noticed. Jungkook's eyes darted away, his fingers clenched into fists as he struggled to compose himself. So, what about your wedding with Sarah? He asked abruptly, desperate to shift the conversation. Taehyung's gaze lingered on Jungkook, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. I called it off, remember? Right in front of you. Jungkook's eyes flickered back to Taehyung's, his expression guarded. That's when he noticed the chain around Taehyung's neck, a ring glinting in the light. Why are you wearing that around your neck? Jungkook asked, his voice low and cautious. Taehyung's smile was enigmatic. Just in case I bump into my bias and don't have time to buy a new one, he said, his eyes locked onto Jungkook's. Jungkook's eyes dropped, his face warming. Don't get your hopes up about things that will never happen, he muttered. Taehyung's chuckle was low and husky. I'll keep that in mind, Rue. Jungkook's smile felt forced, but he couldn't deny the flutter in his chest as he met Taehyung's gaze. In the dimly lit corner of the casino, Taehyung stepped away from the lively group of friends, drawn into the magnetic pull of Jungkook's voice. Laughter and chatter swirled around him, but all he could focus on was the warmth radiating from their conversation. A couple of friends approached, playfully nudging him and teasing about his prolonged phone call. What's going on, man? One asked, raising an eyebrow. You've been on that call for ages. Ryan chimed in, yeah, Nate, who's got you tied up? Taehyung flashed them a cheeky grin. Fair dinkum, boys. Priority here. Get off, I've got a call to take. As he spoke, Taehyung instinctively held the phone screen close to his chest, his friends catching a glimpse of Jungkook's face on the screen. The friends exchanged amused glances. All right, we get it, one said with a chuckle. On the other end of the call, Jungkook's eyes widened as he found himself staring at Taehyung's chest, the phone screen inches from his skin. He felt his mouth go dry, and he swallowed hard, his heart racing. With a laugh, the two friends backed off, leaving Taehyung to his call. Sorry about that, Rue, Taehyung said, his voice low and smooth. Where were we? I think I should hang up now, Jungkook suggested hesitantly. Taehyung's voice dropped to a low whisper. No, stay with me, Rue. I'm heading home, and I want you to keep me company. Your voice is the perfect accompaniment to a lonely night drive. Jungkook's heart skipped a beat as he felt the flutter in his chest. He couldn't help but wonder if Taehyung meant something more by his words. Taehyung slipped into the cool night air and settled into his car, the soft hum of the engine and the warm glow of the dashboard lights enveloping him. Taehyung fiddled with his phone, adjusting the Bluetooth settings as Jungkook watched him, his eyes drifting to the way Taehyung's hands moved deftly. But it was the way Taehyung's chest rose and fell as he breathed, the seatbelt accentuating his lean torso, that really caught Jungkook's attention. Taehyung caught Jungkook looking and flashed him a knowing smile. "Ready to ride, Rue?" he asked, his voice low and smooth. Jungkook bit his lip, feeling a thrill run through him as Taehyung accelerated through the city streets. "I'm glad you called," Taehyung said, his eyes flicking to Jungkook's face. "I was starting to think I'd have to track you down and drag you out of hiding." Jungkook chuckled. "You would have done that, huh?" Taehyung's smile grew wider. "In a heartbeat. But I'm glad I didn't have to resort to drastic measures. You're safer with me, anyway." Jungkook's laughter sent a flutter through Taehyung's chest. "I'm not sure about that," he teased. As he drove through the velvety darkness, their laughter wove a spell of intimacy, filling the air with a joy that was both infectious and intoxicating. Taehyung's jokes flowed effortlessly, each one striking a chord that had Jungkook's chuckles resonating deeply within him. The sound was like music, a melody that harmonized with the beat of Taehyung's heart. Taehyung killed the engine in his parking spot, the sudden silence a palpable thing. He swiftly unlatched his seatbelt, his movements economical as he took the phone in hand. Jungkook watched, his eyes fixed on Taehyung's face, as he fished a key out of his pocket and turned the lock. The sound of the door unlocking seemed to vibrate through the air, and Jungkook felt a shiver run down his spine. Taehyung's eyes met his, the connection sparking like a live wire. "You're alone tonight?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung's gaze held Jungkook's, his eyes burning with a quiet intensity. "I am now," he replied, his voice dripping with suggestion. Jungkook's heart pounded in his chest, his senses heightened as he waited for Taehyung's next move. Their eyes locked, the air thickening with an electric tension that seemed to vibrate through every cell in their bodies. Moments stretching into eternity as their breaths quickened. Finally, Jungkook broke the spell, his voice low and husky. "I need to grab some water. I'll be right back." Taehyung's nod was almost imperceptible, his eyes never leaving Jungkook's face. He watched, mesmerized, as Jungkook rose from the couch, propping the phone against something so Taehyung could still see him. As Jungkook tilted his head back to drink, his shirt rode up, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of his abdomen. Taehyung's gaze zeroed in on the D.P. of Jungkook's navel, his breath catching in his throat. "Ah, F.U.C.K. Taehyung's whisper was barely audible, "You're killing me, Rue," but it sent a shiver down Jungkook's spine. Jungkook's eyes met Taehyung's, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Not my intention," he said, his voice dripping with innocence. "But I'm glad you're enjoying the view." Taehyung's laughter was cut short as his phone buzzed with an incoming call. Jungkook's eyes narrowed slightly. "Everything okay? You're getting calls." Taehyung rolled his eyes. "Speak of the devil," he muttered. "Jungkook. What? It's Reginald, my grandfather," Taehyung said. Jungkook's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "You call your grandfather by his first name?" Taehyung shrugged. "Yeah, we're not super traditional. Besides, he's not your average grandfather." Jungkook chuckled softly. "I can imagine. In our culture, we usually use honorifics or titles to address our elders." "Seriously, how do you address someone older than you?" Taehyung asked, curiosity getting the better of him. "We use honorifics like Hung for guys or Oppa for ladies," Jungkook explained, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Taehyung's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Oh, Hung. I like the way that sounds," he teased, repeating the word with a playful inflection. Jungkook chuckled, his cheeks flushing slightly. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Taehyung's grin widened. "Maybe a little. But seriously, Hung, you're not taking this seriously enough. Jungkook's laughter deepened. You're impossible. I think you should answer that, Jungkook said, nodding towards the phone. Taehyung's eyes sparkled with mischief. Not yet. First, I want to hear something from you. He teased, his voice low and husky. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. What's that? Taehyung's grin widened. I want you to call me Hung. You know, to show some respect to your elders, he said, his tone playful yet flirtatious. Jungkook's cheeks flushed slightly. You're not serious. Taehyung chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. Oh, I'm completely serious. Say it, Rue. Call me Hung. Jungkook's laughter was tinged with embarrassment, but he couldn't help the thrill that ran through him at Taehyung's words. Taehyung's gaze snapped to Jungkook's giggling face, and he felt his heart skip a beat. There was something about Jungkook's uninhibited laughter that drew him in, made him want to witness it again and again. As he sat back in his chair, a thought struck him, and he asked, Hey, Rue, I've always wondered, do those Korean skincare products really live up to the hype? His tone was teasing, but his curiosity was genuine. Jungkook's laughter slowly subsided, replaced by a sly grin. You want to know my secrets, Hung? He asked, his voice low and playful. Taehyung's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled. Maybe I do, Rue. The way Jungkook's lips curled around the word, Hung, sent a jolt of electricity through Taehyung's veins, his heart racing with a sudden, visceral excitement. His pants grew tighter, and his gaze flicked down, as if drawn by an invisible force. But before he could get too distracted, Jungkook asked, What makes you ask that? Taehyung's gaze flew back to Jungkook's face, his eyes locking onto those piercing brown orbs. Look at you, man, you're radiant. Taehyung leaned in closer to the camera, his admiration evident. What's your secret? Jungkook's cheeks warmed slightly, and he smirked. Planning to invest in our beauty products. Taehyung's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled. I don't mind impressing the same person twice, he replied, leaning back on his couch with a casual confidence that made Jungkook's heart skip a beat. As he flexed, his view shifted up to his chest, and Jungkook's eyes followed, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quite process. Jungkook's eyes moved over Taehyung's honey-colored skin, glowing under the dim light of his surroundings. He couldn't help but admire how effortlessly handsome Taehyung was, godly handsome, really. Lost, Taehyung teased, noticing Jungkook's silence. No, just appreciating the view, Jungkook managed to say, his voice softer now. Taehyung chuckled, his laughter rich and melodic. You're sweet. But seriously, what's your secret? I want that glow too. It's just skincare, honestly. It takes time, Jungkook replied, feeling a sense of pride. But if you want, I can send you some products to try out. Now that's a deal. Just make sure they're the good stuff. I need to look as flawless as you, Taehyung said with a playful pout. Jungkook laughed, shaking his head at Taehyung's banter. I'll get you the best. Just promise me you'll actually use them and not let them sit on a shelf. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, the night stretching on as Jungkook glanced at the time, realization dawning that it was almost morning. It's nearly 4, here. Taehyung confirmed when he checked his own clock, a hint of surprise in his voice. Jungkook hesitated for a moment, feeling a flutter of anticipation in his chest. Thani, he called softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Taehyung's gaze locked onto Jungkook's, a slow smile spreading across his face. At the sound of the affectionate nickname, Taehyung's eyes sparkled with delight, warmth spreading through his chest. He felt a rush of joy wash over him as he locked onto Jungkook's gaze, his heart skipping a beat. Yeah, he replied, a soft smile gracing his lips, one that spoke volumes about how much he cherished the intimate nickname. Jungkook's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled back. I have an important official gathering tomorrow. He shared, his voice tinged with reluctance, as if he'd rather stay in this quiet moment with Taehyung forever. Taehyung's expression turned sympathetic, his eyes never leaving Jungkook's face. You'll do great, he said, his voice filled with conviction. You should get some rest, Taehyung urged gently. Jungkook nodded, reluctant to end their conversation. Yeah, you're right. Taehyung's smile softened. I'll save your number, and it's going straight to my favorites, right next to my bedtime stories, Taehyung whispered, his voice dripping with suggestion. Jungkook ended the call. He lay flat on his bed, staring at the ceiling, a warmth spreading through his heart. The thought of Taehyung lingered in his mind, the way his laughter danced in the air, the spark in his eyes, and the sweetness of that simple nickname echoing softly in his thoughts. In the quiet solitude of night, Jungkook felt a sense of intimacy that wrapped around him like a comforting embrace. As the Sydney sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, Taehyung's phone rang, shattering the peaceful morning calm. He reached for it, his hand patting the bed as if searching for a lost treasure. His eyes sparkled as he saw Jungkook's name on the screen. Good morning, my Ru. How's my favorite person today? The soft, raspy tone wrapped around Jungkook's heart, squeezing gently. Jungkook's voice, laced with a hint of excitement and a dash of morning roughness, replied, "You still wrapped in blankets?" The thought of Taehyung tangled in sheets, hair mussed, and eyes sleepy, made Jungkook's pulse tick faster. Taehyung's chuckle was a low, throaty rumble. Yeah, slowly coming back to life, he murmured, his tone painting a picture of lazy, sensual mornings. As they chatted, Taehyung rose from bed, his movements fluid and languid. He padded to the washroom, splashing water on his face to shake off the remnants of sleep. Jungkook's voice followed him, a constant companion. I've got a long day ahead, Jungkook said, his tone tinged with a hint of trepidation. Taehyung's voice softened. You'll nail it, Ru. Jungkook's tone turned playful. Thanks, Tani. But, honestly, how'd I look today? Taehyung's laughter was a rich, velvety sound. Bloke, get on video call, pronto, I need visual confirmation. Jungkook's giggle sent Taehyung's heart skipping a beat. Pics on its way. Taehyung's eyes widened as he checked his phone. Whoa, Ru, you're serving looks today. That suit was made for you. Just as their conversation was reaching new heights, a voice from Jungkook's end interrupted. Jungkook, time to roll. Let's move. Mr. Jaeon's stern face was a jarring contrast to the warm, flirtatious vibe that had been buzzing between Jungkook and Taehyung. Taehyung's tone turned sly. Save me the details for later, my guy. Jungkook swiftly ended the call, leaving Taehyung with a hollow feeling. Ah, this guy, Taehyung exclaimed, playfully frustrated, as he tossed his phone onto the bed. He sprang into action. Once dressed, he ambled into the kitchen, the mess and chaos a testament to his love for living alone. He pulled out a box of Wheat Bix, a quintessential Aussie breakfast cereal, and began to prepare his meal. As he ate, Taehyung's fingers flew across his phone's keyboard, typing out a message to Jungkook. Hey, daddy's boy, hope you're not too scared of your oppa today. Jungkook, seated in the car next to his father, couldn't help but giggle at the message. Mr. Jaeon's glare was immediate, but Jungkook quickly tucked his phone away, his face a mask of innocence. Some funny message, he murmured. As Taehyung played Jungkook's voice message for the third time, a soft smile still lingered on his lips. He sauntered back into the living room, only to be met with the imposing figure of Reginald Nathaniel. The air was heavy with tension as Reginald's piercing gaze swept across the room, taking in the chaotic surroundings. This is how you live, Taehyung. Reginald's voice was laced with disdain, his fingers splayed in disgust. Like a slob, Taehyung let out a frustrated sigh, flopping onto the couch as Reginald took a seat opposite him. The old man's eyes blazed with intensity. You broke off your engagement with Sarah. Reginald's tone was accusatory, his words dripping with malice. Taehyung raised an eyebrow, his voice nonchalant. Yeah, Reginald's face turned beet red. And you didn't think it necessary to inform your grandfather or even your mother. Taehyung's eyes narrowed, a hint of resentment flickering in their depths. Wow, finally, a break from the Empire's affairs to discuss my life choices. His tone was laced with subtle bitterness, implying a long-standing absence of attention from his grandfather. Reginald's patience snapped, his voice firm but controlled. Enough of this evasion, Taehyung. What's behind your sudden withdrawal from the marriage? Taehyung's gaze remained steady, his tone neutral. Must I justify my decisions to you? Reginald's anger flared, his words laced with a hint of indignation. You owe me an explanation. Why reject someone like Sarah, who brings unparalleled connections and prestige? Taehyung's response was low and even, a hint of disdain creeping into his voice. Because, quite frankly, she lacks the one thing I value most, substance. Reginald's face twisted in contempt. Lacks substance. Just like your mother thought your father was, and abandoned him. Taehyung's eyes flashed with righteous fury as he rose from his seat, his voice exploding through the room like thunder. You dare to speak of my parents. You, who manipulated and destroyed their marriage. You, who drove my mother away and stole my childhood. And now, you're questioning my judgment. At least I know what substance is, unlike the empty, shallow connections you've forced upon me. Reginald's face lost its color, but his tone remained even. I gave your father purpose. He worked tirelessly to ensure our family's prosperity. Taehyung's laughter was a cold, harsh sound. Purpose? You mean servitude. He was a prisoner of your ambition, a mere pawn in your game of power. You sucked the life out of him, Granddad. He was a slave to your ambition, working day and night to fuel your greed for power and wealth. He had no life outside of work, no time for Mom, no time for me. Taehyung's voice cracked with emotion, but he pressed on. And when Mom left, he was already broken. The work pressure, the stress, it all took its toll. He was depressed, Granddad, and you didn't even notice. You just kept pushing him, driving him to work harder, to achieve more. Reginald's eyes flashed with anger, but Taehyung continued, his voice relentless. You're the reason my dad ended his life. You're the reason I'm alone. Taehyung's eyes locked onto Reginald's, his gaze burning with accusation. And in the end, it was too much for him. He ended his life, Granddad, because he couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take the pressure, the stress, the emptiness. The room fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of the two men. Reginald's face was ashen, but Taehyung's eyes blazed with a fierce determination. I won't let you do the same to me, Granddad. Taehyung said, his voice cold and detached. I won't let you control my life, my happiness. I'm breaking free, Granddad, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. With a sudden movement, Taehyung grabbed his phone and keys, his voice cold and detached. I'm leaving, Granddad. On my terms, not yours. As Taehyung strode out of the house, Reginald's voice followed him, laced with malice. I'll show you what I can do, my dear grandson. The sound of Taehyung's car speeding away was followed by Reginald's ominous words. I'll make sure you regret this, Taehyung. The cool evening air doing little to calm his seething anger. He wandered aimlessly through the city streets, his feet carrying him on autopilot. Eventually, he found himself at a quiet riverside promenade, the soft lapping of the water against the shore a soothing balm to his frazzled nerves. He pulled out his phone and stared at Jungkook's picture, his eyes drinking in the warm smile and sparkling eyes. Rue, why do I always let him get to me? Taehyung whispered, his voice barely audible over the water. I swear, one day I'll be free from all this toxic legacy. Lost in thought, Taehyung didn't notice the passing of time. It was only when the sky began to darken that he reluctantly tucked his phone away and headed back home. As he approached the mansion, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. The front gates were locked, and the windows were shuttered. A chill ran down Taehyung's spine as he realized he'd been locked out. A slow smile spread across his face, a spark of defiance igniting within him. Grandfather, you really don't know me at all, do you? Taehyung's eyes narrowed as he dialed his grandfather's number, his anger simmering just below the surface. Reginald's voice was cold. Ah, Taehyung, finally speaking to me. Taehyung's tone was icy. What's going on, grandfather? Why is the house locked? Reginald's voice turned detached. You want independence. Very well, consider this your formal eviction. Your father's trust fund will provide for you. Use it wisely. With that, he hung up, leaving Taehyung fuming. He stomped his foot in irritation and slumped onto the hood of his car. Just then, his phone buzzed. A soft voice interrupted Taehyung's fuming. Taehyung. Taehyung's response was curt. Not now, Alex. Alex's tone was gentle, persistent. I know what happened. I tried reasoning with Reginald, but... Taehyung's silence was palpable, allowing Alex to continue. Where will you go now? Alex asked, concern etched in his voice. Taehyung's reply was resolute. I'll handle it, Alex. Don't worry. Alex, is there anything I can do to help? I just need my gadgets and personal things. If you could bring them, that'd be great. Alex, of course, I'll take care of it. As Taehyung ended the call, another message pinged through. Meet me at my building. It was from his mother. Time passed, and soon Taehyung found himself waiting outside an office building. Finally, his mother emerged, looking both concerned and determined. You could come inside, Taehyung. No, I'm fine out here, he replied, avoiding her gaze. She stepped closer, extending a key toward him. Taehyung's eyes narrowed at the key in her hand. What's that? His mother's expression was hesitant. Your grandfather called me, told me not to support you. Said you're his grandson, and his alone. Taehyung's laughter was dry, humorless. Save it, mother. You've made it clear where your priorities lie. Taehyung, how can you speak to me like that? Quote. Suddenly, a teenage boy came barreling toward her, snatching the car keys from her hand. Finn, say hello to your brother. The boy turned, stuck his tongue out at Taehyung, and ran toward the car. He isn't my brother, the boy screamed. Taehyung rolled his eyes. Taehyung, don't take him seriously. I'm not taking either of you seriously. She gazed into the distance, her expression softening. Where will you stay? I know where to go. Don't worry about me. Taehyung, she said, inching closer and taking his hand. Reginald Nathaniel is a ruthless man who doesn't value feelings, and I despise him for everything he's done. She swallowed hard, fighting back tears. But you are still the heir to this family. If you don't want to follow in your father's footsteps, at least pay attention to your business. And why did you break up with Sarah? Quote, I don't feel anything for her anymore. Is there someone else on your mind? Taehyung shook his head, his resolve faltering. His mother nodded knowingly, but before she could speak further, a man stepped out of the building and approached them. Sweetheart, shall we leave? He turned to Taehyung with a warm smile. Hey there, young man. Good to see you. Hello, Liam. Taehyung mumbled. I'll be in a minute, she said. Liam nodded and walked toward the car. Taehyung's mother looked back at him one last time as Finn called from the vehicle. Mom, hurry up. Taehyung, I'll leave now. Call me if you need anything. As she released his hand, Taehyung felt a pang of loss. She was about to turn away when he called out. Mom, he called. She paused. What is it, Taehyung? He searched her face, a mix of longing and uncertainty swirling within him. Do you ever miss me? Taehyung asked. Her expression faltered, and for a moment, the world around them faded. She stared at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, a bittersweet smile forming on her lips. Taehyung watched as she turned to leave, an ache settling deep in his chest. He wanted to call her back, to say something, anything, that might make her stay. But the words caught in his throat. As she walked toward the car, Finn leaned out the window, a cheeky grin plastered across his face. Finn, bye, loser. Taehyung couldn't help but chuckle lightly, shaking his head at his step-brother's antics. As the car pulled away, he felt a rush of emotions flood over him, sadness, anger, and an undeniable sense of yearning. Taehyung pushed open the creaky front door, a warm smile spreading across his face as he stepped into his new home. The scent of fresh paint and polished wood enveloped him, a sense of possibility and freedom settling in. As he gazed around the cozy living room, his phone still pressed to his ear, he chuckled at the sound of Ryan's laughter on the other end. I'm telling you, Ryan, this place is perfect, Taehyung said, making his way to the balcony. He slid open the glass door and stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the crisp evening air. And it's got a killer view, Taehyung said, his eyes scanning the rooftops and the twinkling city lights beyond. Just then, he noticed a blonde woman standing on the balcony of the neighboring house, her gaze fixed intently on him. She was wearing only a skimpy pair of underwear, and a cigarette dangled from her lips. She caught Taehyung's eye and winked, puffing on her cigarette. Taehyung's cheeks flushed with surprise, but he couldn't help but laugh at the unexpected distraction. Ryan's voice on the phone brought him back to reality. "Dude, what's going on?" Ryan asked, amusement lacing his tone. "You sound like you're enjoying the view a little too much." Taehyung chuckled, tearing his gaze away from the blonde woman. "Just the neighborhood welcoming committee, Ryan." As he turned to head back inside, the woman called out, "Hey, neighbor. Welcome to the hood." Taehyung grinned and waved, feeling a spark of excitement about his new life in this eccentric neighborhood. He opened the door to find Alex standing before him, a gentle smile on his face, and a collection of bags and gadgets in his hands. "Come in, Alex," Taehyung said, "thanks for bringing my stuff." Alex's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled. "No worries, Taehyung. I gathered everything I could." As Alex entered, his gaze roamed over Tae, taking in the way his hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck. He felt a flutter in his chest, but pushed the feeling aside. "Which house is this?" Alex asked, his eyes scanning the room. "Did you rent it?" Taehyung nodded, his eyes never leaving Alex's face. "Yeah, kind of." Alex's gaze lingered on Taehyung's, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. Taehyung broke the silence, his voice a little softer. "Alex, I know Sarah is your family, don't mind that I couldn't go through with the marriage." Alex's expression turned gentle, and he placed a hand on Taehyung's shoulder. "I'll talk to Sarah. I knew it wouldn't go well." Taehyung felt a shiver run down his spine at the touch, but he moved away slightly. Just then, his phone rang, shrill in the silence. Taehyung's eyes locked onto the screen, his heart skipping a beat as he saw Jungkook's name flashing. Taehyung's voice was low and husky as he answered the call. "Hey." Jungkook's response sent a shiver down Taehyung's spine. "Annyeong, hung. Missing me?" Taehyung's eyes met Alex's, and he felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He turned away, trying to compose himself. "Just a little," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Alex raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparking in his eyes, but Taehyung just smiled and nodded. "I'll catch you later, Alex." Alex nodded, a smile playing on his lips, and headed for the door. As the door closed behind Alex, Taehyung let out a sigh of relief and leaned against the wall, his eyes closing as he focused on Jungkook's voice. "How was your day?" Taehyung asked, his voice a little softer. Jungkook chuckled, the sound sending shivers down Taehyung's spine. "I'm tired as hell, and I have to leave for a business trip tomorrow." Taehyung's eyes snapped open, his heart racing with concern. "You work too much, Jungkook." Jungkook's laughter was warm, making Taehyung's skin prickle with goosebumps. "You're one to talk, Aussie man." Taehyung smiled, his eyes closing as he let out a soft sigh. "I'm just saying, you need to take some time for yourself." Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper, sending shivers down Taehyung's spine. "I'll try, but it's hard when I have so much on my plate." Taehyung's heart went out to Jungkook, his voice softening. "I know, but you can't pour from an empty cup." Just then, Jungkook sent him a photo of a beautiful painting. Taehyung's eyes widened in awe. "Hey, that's amazing." Jungkook chuckled, "Thanks. I painted it." Taehyung's eyes roamed over the painting, taking in the vibrant colors and bold strokes. "You're talented, why don't you pursue it?" Jungkook's laughter was low and husky. "I don't have time, but thanks for the vote of confidence." Taehyung smiled, his eyes closing as he let out a soft sigh. "Anytime, you know I'm always here for you." Jungkook's voice was warm and friendly. "Thani, all okay." Taehyung's breath caught in his throat. "I'm better now that I'm talking to you." Jungkook's laughter was soft and amused. "Glad to hear that." The silence that followed was comfortable, the tension between them palpable. "So, what's new with you?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung's voice was flirtatious. "Just missing someone, and wondering when I'll see them again." Jungkook's response was noncommittal, but his tone hinted at curiosity. "Who's that?" Taehyung's laughter was husky. "You know who." Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think I do." The silence that followed was electric, the tension between them almost unbearable. "I should go," Jungkook said finally. Taehyung's voice was playful. "Already? But I was just getting started." "Jungkook, I'll talk to you later, Thani." Taehyung's voice was playful. "You're really going to leave me hanging like this?" Jungkook's laughter was soft and amused. "I'm just getting started, Thani." Taehyung's heart skipped a beat as Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper. "I've been thinking about you all day." Taehyung's breath caught in his throat. "Oh, what were you thinking?" Jungkook's response was slow and deliberate. "I was thinking about your smile, and how it lights up the room." Taehyung's skin prickled with goosebumps. "Rue, now you're making me blush." Jungkook's laughter was soft and husky. "That's the idea." The air was charged with tension as they locked eyes, their gazes burning with desire. Jungkook's shirt was partially unbuttoned, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of his chest. But Taehyung's eyes remained fixed on Jungkook's, the connection between them crackling with electricity. "Rue," Taehyung called out softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook's eyes flashed with heat, his blood surging to his midsection. "Thani," he replied. Without breaking eye contact, Taehyung leaned forward, his phone lying on the bed beneath his chest. He pressed his lips against the screen, the soft smack of the kiss echoing through the line. Jungkook's fist clenched around his blanket, his body tense with desire. Taehyung's fist mirrored his, clutching his own blanket as if it were a lifeline. "Couldn't hold back, Rue," Taehyung whispered, his voice dripping with longing. Jungkook's eyes burned with intensity. "I don't want you to," screaming in his mind, but he held back and abruptly disconnected the call. Her voice was a gentle whisper, a prompt that unlocked a floodgate of memories. And then, Jungkook's face softened, a slow, nostalgic smile spreading across his features like a sunrise. "And then," he whispered, his eyes drifting shut as if to savor the memory. She leaned in, her curiosity palpable. Jungkook's eyes remained closed, his voice barely above a whisper. "He showed up at my doorstep, his eyes blazing with a promise." A pause, and then the words tumbled out, a confession of longing. "To tell me, I'll show you what it means to be mine." Jungkook's chest rose and fell with each breath, his words painting a picture of a moment frozen in time. "The way he looked at me, the way his eyes sparkled with desire, it's etched in my memory forever." The silence that followed was a living, breathing thing, a testament to the enduring power of that moment. Jungkook's eyes remained closed, his face a mask of serene longing, as if the past and present had blurred into a singular, aching desire. Taehyung stepped out of Seoul Airport. He checked Jungkook's organization building on the map and hailed a cab. Settling into the backseat, he dialed Jungkook's number. Jungkook's voice was crisp and professional as he answered. "Where were you, Aussie man? I was trying your number all night, and it kept saying busy." Taehyung chuckled, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Maybe I was talking to my girlfriend." Jungkook's face paled, a flicker of emotion crossing his features before he masked it. "Oh." Taehyung's smile grew wider. "Hey, Jungkook, tell me something. How do I get an appointment with you?" Jungkook's response was careless. "You don't need an appointment. So, I just walk into your cabin." Jungkook's voice was distracted, his focus on something else. "Yeah, that's fine." Taehyung's gaze never wavered. "And which floor are you on?" Jungkook's response was automatic. 11th. Taehyung's smile grew wider. "All right, then I'll call you in a bit, I gotta meet someone." Tani. Taehyung disconnected the call. He looked around the office lobby, taking in the sleek lines and bustling atmosphere. He adjusted his shoulder bag, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on a security guard approaching him. Sir, you can't bring that bag in here. You need to deposit it over there. Taehyung winked at the guard, his eyes crinkling at the corners. All right, mate. As he dropped off his bag, Taehyung headed to the elevator, his eyes locked on the numbers flashing above the doors. When the doors slid open on the 11th floor, Taehyung stepped out, his eyes scanning the reception area. A receptionist looked up, her eyes widening as she took in Taehyung's rugged features. Can I help you, sir? Taehyung's smile was disarming. I'm here to see Jaeon Jungkook. The receptionist's eyes darted to the phone. Do you have an appointment, sir? No, I was told to walk in. The receptionist's eyes widened, her face flushing. One moment, sir. As she dialed Jungkook's extension, Taehyung lounged against the counter, his piercing gaze holding hers captive. Stunning, he murmured, his low, husky tone sending a flutter through her chest. The receptionist's cheeks flushed a deep crimson as she stammered. "Yes, sir, there's a visitor for you." Jungkook's voice crackled through the line. "Who is it?" "I'm busy." Taehyung's fingers wrapped around the receiver, his eyes never leaving the receptionist's face. "It's me, Taehyung Nathaniel," he said, his voice smooth as silk, laced with a hint of mischief. The receptionist's eyes darted to Taehyung, her expression a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Jungkook's pause on the other end of the line was palpable, before his deep voice rumbled, with surprise, "Taethani, what are you doing here?" Taehyung handed the receiver back to the receptionist, her eyes widened in curiosity, her voice barely audible. "Yes, sir." Jungkook's response was abrupt, "Let him in." He held the receiver tight for a moment before dropping it back onto its cradle. His pulse quickened, his heart racing with anticipation. His eyes darted towards the door, his mind racing with possibilities. Suddenly, Jungkook's demeanor shifted. He jumped out of his seat, his movements swift and agitated. He adjusted his clothes, his fingers fumbling with the buttons of his shirt. His eyes locked onto the door, his breath catching in his throat. The air was thick with tension, the silence palpable. Jungkook's anxiety was palpable, his body tense with anticipation. What was Taehyung doing here? And why did Jungkook's heart feel like it was going to burst out of his chest?